after chapter discussion for 9.44, 9.45, and 9.46. So the way we'll do this is we'll just start out with we'll start out with the general impressions of all three chapters at once, and then we'll do questions for 9.44, then questions for 9.45, and then questions for 9.46. We'll only do one or two questions for the first two chapters since they were shorter ones, and we'll do more questions for the last chapter because it was the longest one. So, if you want to give an impression of all the chapters at once, go ahead. If you had an impression for just one of the chapters, go ahead. But right now is general impressions. So give me your impressions for all three chapters. Myself, I really loved all three of these chapters. 9.44 because we got to see Pelt, and I'm always a fan of the smithing chapters. They always are fun for me. It's I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but I used to watch Forge and Fire, that stupid smithing reality TV show. It's just I find smithing really fun to watch and read about. So yeah, the smithing chapter was really great. I love seeing Pelt's get even more like I love seeing Pelt progress over time. How he's come from a drunken person who's just never going to smith again to being someone who's being like a foil to the new dwarven incursion into Israel. 9.45, I I'm really starting to like Tyrion overall. It's I'm coming around completely. Tyrion is getting there, and this chapter really helped him, progress as a person. It really helped him. It really helped him. It helped show him actually learning about what happened, or learning and progressing as a person to become someone better. So yeah, I really loved this chapter. Gary was great in it too. And then there's 9.46, which, as we all know, was a very, very, very great chapter. It was just a lot of fun seeing Sylvania going around, uh, screwing around with all these different leaders, going to the Earther tent. It was a really fun time. I enjoyed it a lot, and we got some really cool lore out of it too. So yeah, these sets of three chapters, I'd say all of them are 9 out of 10. They were great chapters overall. All right, Sidehammer, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, thanks. Pelt's chapter, I really enjoyed at least the ending of it. To be honest, the build up of it, or the beginning of it, was less interesting to me. But I did enjoy seeing the, the process about or hearing about the process of orichalcum, and meeting the new dwarves will be fun. And I hope that suit of armor that they brought is for somebody in the inn, one of the order. That would be really cool. The Gary and Tyrion one, I thought that was my favorite of the three, to be honest. Just seeing how far Tyrion has come, or just the way he's been maneuvered into seeing things differently. From people like Calruz during the Zeladona trials, and all the work that Ryok has been putting in to try to show him. And I really enjoyed his. I really enjoyed that he's been waking up, or he's been losing sleep over what he's done, and he wants to protect things like Akira. And I thought that was a really great development for him. Gary, of course, is a saint. I adore him. He threw a good punch today, and I love that Tyrion came to his aid. That was pretty awesome. The Sylvania chapter, it was definitely insane. I'm I was just reading it again earlier just to make sure I caught everything, and just wow, Lino, good on you, man, and happy birthday. because that was pretty crazy to see one of the community become a actual character inside the story. I really enjoyed the meeting of like the Illuminati. I think they're putting Earth down. I'm starting to feel a little bit of that fire edge up in my chest. Like, hey, fuck off, guys. We can kick your ass too, you know. But it's a stupid hometown thing. But I definitely really enjoyed seeing the Illuminati coming together and trying to plan their way through beating Earth, and if it should come to that. And yeah,
I'm curious. I have a question. If that's allowed, I don't know.
For now, we're doing some general impressions for now. We'll get to questions later on, so just wait a few minutes and then we'll get to you. So,
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was
but that's all I got. Yeah, but that's all I got for now. Off to you guys.
So the way this works, Cold Fire, is just real quick. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in ACD reactions comments, and we'll go through those later. But for now, we're just giving short general impressions of the chapters. And yeah, real fast side hammer. I did definitely agree with you when you said that 9.45 was your favorite. It was my favorite too. I really liked that chapter. But yeah, Enuryn, you want to speak next?
Yes, starting with the Pearl chapter. It was nice. The bamboozle at the start, because of the P, I really thought we were getting a Pursuer chapter. But she was pretty quickly handled, and I loved the way how. Meeting the other dwarves was interesting. The more of the beach in shenanigans. Overall, I liked the chapter, but the Tyrion chapter was not only the best one of the three. I think it was one of the best one in the volume 9 so far, easy in the top 10. Especially when you have recently read or listened to volume 5 again, and how much of an hateful character he was built up. You really hated that guy, and in the course of 4 volumes now, he got humanized more and more and more, and now we got this last twist to really see him getting his redemption arc. I had tears in my eyes on the POV when he saw his son and playing with the other kids, and had the thought, I don't want this little kid to die. I want him to live. And that was, yeah, him working with an Antinium at the end at the cooking contest was just the icing on the cake. I goddamn love this chapter. That was the most cringe conversation I've ever read with the thick thighs with the thighs save lives. It was hilarious. I couldn't stop reading it and cringing every second. I just loved it. The Sylvania chapter, yeah, it was pure madness. The most thing I get out of this was the conversation between Floss and the other leaders in Sylvania. I really always had in my mind that Earth in a direct conflict. I really thought Earth would be stronger, but now that I think about the zombies, it's no. Earth would be ruined with one magical plague. With the zombie outbreak, I mean, how many millions and billions of dead people we have flying around? If they were to rise up, we would be fucked. And yeah, good for Lino. I really thought that his character was non-canon. Now I have been proven wrong, and it was still a great chapter.
Thank you, Aderon. I will say that you're absolutely right. Recently, like a few months ago, in fact, I reread the end of Volume 5, and I just remembered how much I hated Tyrion back then.
Yep.
Like it was just like pure hatred for Tyrion. But now that we've seen him a lot more, now that we get a picture of what's happened with him, it makes a lot more sense. And we get to see how he's changed, and I like that. It's good. All right, Linu, let's hear your thoughts on all the chapters. I'm sure you're not going to focus on one thing in particular. Go ahead.
Yes, I will be very fair and will give lengthy description of every chapter. So starting with the Pelt one, I liked it. Now going off to the Tyrion chapter, I also liked it. Okay, we are done with them. So we can go to the Sylvania chapter. Sylvania and certain catboy. Holy fuck. 2 years. 2 years of my dreams, of dreaming every day, of all the things that were in there, crammed into one chapter that was a birthday gift. Imagine that every question that was in there was my question, and they got all answered. Holy shit, people, can you imagine how I was happy reading it? I was crying, I was shaking, I was jumping all around my room. I didn't know what to do, what to say, because she was just this amazing. Holy shit, people. Like, imagine I got to hug my greatest hero, my beloved Archmage. This is... People shouldn't be possibly be this happy. Like, it shouldn't be happening. But my dream came true. Like, holy shit! I got to hug Serim Potfa. I don't know why Chatwa was taking me away. Look, she's jealous. She is just jealous. She doesn't want me to hug Serim Potfa. I'm telling you. She's just like that. I got to get a hug. I got to have the answer about the leveling question. Like, I remember talking for like 1,000 messages with people who's higher level, Ashkerash or Sylvania. You know what, Ashkerash? It's shit, you necromancer. Sylvania is higher. I always knew it. I knew it. So, we have that. She answered also the question that was very, very personal for me, why she keeps going. And I'm not gonna lie, that question also made me cry there. But I won't go deeper into that. Then we had our little situation where she had to escape the onslaught that the Blighted Kingdom wanted to put on her, which was pretty damn amazing, like she always is. She gave a giant fuck you to Rihis, who was like, "Die, demon!" And she just laughed at him and threw one spell at him, and it caused Rihis to be like, "I'm dying," and he basically just cut off the spell. So that's again a good one on her. Then she went to Chandra, and holy shit, Sylvania in Chandra was just pure chef's kiss. She was freeing the slaves, like I always said, that she is going to free the slaves. She just does that. She's a liberator, but she also kills the slavers in a very fun way. Oh, look, it's not me, it's not Sylvania. And then, okay, it's me, Sylvania, now die, motherfuckers. And she killed them. We had her situation with the hero, who turned out to be real hero, unlike the heroes from Rihir, which are not real heroes. They have the class, but they don't have the true heart of a hero. Then the entire meeting with the Floss 7. I'm laughing because they were thinking that they would be able to do what? Shout her to death? But it turned out to be, in my opinion, a very important conversation for this story. Because on two different levels. First one is that it shows that there are leaders in the world that are willing to talk to the demons, which previously we only knew about the Draffians and Dulahans and the Drowned Folk and Antinium, who are willing to do so. Now we know that it's not only them. There are more nations that are just willing to casually go and talk with one of the deathless. So it puts a whole different light on the level of relations that demons have with the other kingdoms in the world. That's the one thing. The second is obvious. The fight Earth against the inward. I personally bet on the inward. Only because Sylvania is there. I will not lie to you people. Then we had her going away from there. And the moment in the tent. First off, like just deaths, their free time. Yes, I also asked about that. What they are doing in free time and how their friendship look like. Holy shit, they are so good friends. Like, you would expect those super powerful people to be like that many named adventures are like, look at me, I'm named adventure, I have been through shit, my cat has died, my dog has died, my uncle, he sent me a card which says, you are a bad guy. And I am so sad. And they just go like, I am sad, I am grim, I am bad guy, I am named adventure. And then we have them just enjoying themselves being those casual friends on a small trip to another world, because why not? Honestly, I kind of expected it to be like that, but not to this level. It was absolutely super amazing to see them being so casual. And their meeting with Horns was just pure cherry on top. Seria panicking and trying to attack Sylvania with those ice spells. Like, yeah, it clearly is going to work against someone who's like 40 or 50 levels ahead of you. No, we didn't. But it was funny, and she got to see how that spell is supposed to look like. We had Sylvania trying to sing or rhyme, and holy shit. This is the one thing that she can do. The only thing that she can do, literally. I love it. She can do so. Chara spoke there. Then they got back to Demon Kingdom, and we had this very fine scene where everyone was trying to kill Sylvania, but they, of course, weren't able to because they are not PogChamps. Only she is a PogChamp like that. Only she is this strong. She just got through there so many fail saves, through so many spells and attack, and she got back to her tower. People were like, oh, Sylvania, what are you doing? You nearly died. And she just dapped on them with all the things that she did within like that one day. And I got to be thrown at the Minister of Defense. Sorry, Minister of Defense, you have tough life. But I'm going to attack you every time you say shit about my beloved Archmage. So get used to it. And then chapter ended in the most beautiful way possible, at least in my opinion. Just Sylvania going to sleep with me. You know, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
All right, thank you, Linu. Obviously, I'm not surprised that you had such a lovely reaction to the chapter. It was great that you got such a nice birthday present, and it was just a fun chapter, anyways. Even if you cut out like the whole Linu part, even if you just got rid of that, it was still a great chapter. So I think it works either way. Well, it was a fun chapter. Thank you, Linu. Let's read out some more of the. Let's read out what people said in chat. I mean, Donkey 2012 says good short chapters, lots of good lore tidbits and hints what's to come. Yep, I agree with that. Absolutely. Mystical Pie says this last week of chapters has been super fun. I've enjoyed the interweaving of fun slice of life stuff with slightly more serious setup and character development. Yeah. It's just been a very fun time where we've gotten a lot of slice of life. Sidehammer says, response to Edoron, at least Earth has had plenty of practice imagining a zombie apocalypse, and in-worlders may be surprised by our aptitude. Yeah, that I like when the zombie thing was brought up, like I immediately connected it to, you know, the TWI movie will be a zombie apocalypse movie. You know, I thought that was just really funny in my head. Enuryn replies to Sidehammer by saying, "In all the zombie stories, I know 60 or 70% of Earth dies, so that would already be a fat L." Yeah, but in a lot of zombie stories, the reasoning why 60 or 70% of the Earth dies doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, in real life, it'll be a lot different. Mario says, it will be. We're not going to discuss this though, Edward. Mario says the deaths have big shonen jump energy. I suppose so. Rhythm and Bruise, you want to speak?
Yep. I was gonna say I really liked it. I think this whole series of things has been. You can see Pirate has been having fun with the writing, and I really like that. I think it's there's a certain energy that comes with the author having a good time, and I'll admit that part of that I don't know if the words are the same. And you can tell by reading the words, or it's just that Pirate has said they've had energy and have been enjoying romping around and doing things this week. And so knowing that has made me happier to read the chapters because, I tend to live on positive energy. But whichever it is, I have had a lot of fun because the author's been having fun. And so it feels like a lighter air about it. I completely agree that they're going to be surprised at how well Earth people are going to react to magic and zombies. And there's a lot of people that sit and think about what to do in these situations. Case in point, Pirate has thought about this, so I'm sure that other people have thought about it too, and military organizations have thought about what to do if weird aliens or zombie things happen. Like actual serious military strategists have thought about this. So yeah, that'll be we've been waiting for this our whole lives to happen. Well, those are my kind of thoughts on it, and I also really appreciate the even though I am not personally a fan of Sylvanian person, I appreciate the almost everyone has in world has some redeemable qualities and is a person. So we haven't really seen that in Rearland. So that was my thoughts on the whole thing.
Thank you, Descanter. You're absolutely right about people all having some redeemable qualities, and that's really true to life. There are very few people who are actually just completely terrible people. Sometimes a lot of times we want to think that they're just like straight up bad people who only have bad thoughts, and that's just not really the case. So whenever we see a character that has some redeemable quality, even though they're on the opposite side from our main characters, it always like drives it home for me that it's more true to life than anything else, and I really enjoy that. Thank you, Rhythm and Bruce. All right, I think that's it for general impressions. Let's just go on to some of the questions. We'll start out with 9.44 questions. Like I said, there aren't too many questions for this one, so we'll just do. I think we'll do. We'll do this one. What's your theory on why Pelt was exiled? So we haven't actually. I don't think we've ever discussed this in an after chapter discussion, but we got we got some more hints in these chapters. Not just, mostly in this Pelt chapter, but we got some more. It got brought up again, and yet we still haven't, seen why he was exiled. So, what does everyone think? I know Chat has had some wild theories in the past, such as like Kreller armor. He's been trying to make he and the rest of the dwarves were trying to make armor out of Krellers, and something went wrong and all that. But I generally don't agree with that. I think it's more something simple. It just something went wrong in general, and they all hate themselves for it. Basically, Mario, you wanted to speak.
Yes. Basically, my idea would be that probably Pell didn't want to take an apprentice, or maybe when he took an apprentice, he committed a mistake, and that was and that maybe had a big consequence in the dwarf society. there could be many other reasons, but I really like to hear what everyone has to say.
All right, that's a reasonable theory. Mr. Europe, you wanted to go?
Yeah, the thing is, we know that it's like it was a team effort from all the big dwarf, like all the main dwarf smiths that were all working on whatever happened together. So my theory is that they were doing something with the ancestors, the immortal dwarf people at the bottom of the mountain, uh, or whatever they are. It's almost certainly what they are, but uh, whatever twist there is on it. Either they were like trying to fix one of them, if they're like, because I'm assuming that they're kind of like the traditional dwarf thing, which is that the original dwarves were kind of more rocky or mechanical or in some way like more less fleshy. So I'm assuming that like the original, they were doing something with the original dwarves, like trying to wake them up or unearth them or playing around with their equipment or something, and got arrogant and broke original dwarf equipment that's irreplaceable, or accidentally killed or injured one of them. And that's like the big, because that really fits with their whole, this is completely irredeemable. Everything needs to go, and we need to train up a completely new generation.
It's another reasonable theory. I think that it could definitely be it, but well, no, but actually, that's just a good theory. I like it. Rhythm and Brews, you want to speak next?
Yep. So I didn't really know it. Earlier it sounded like they made some mistake, and also that mistake was at least related to the King of Destruction in order from from Floss, because Ghazi's armor was reparations to him for them mucking up some huge order. But like that clearly is not the only thing that would do it. And then we didn't get a lot. But the interesting thing is that Pelt says in one of these chapters that we were corrupt. And so that was the biggest new clue to me. I don't really have a specific theory, but it means it means they, in some sense, they didn't just screw up. They knowingly abandoned some principles of being great dwarf smiths, which kind of makes sense because you don't toss out a bunch of level 50 smiths for making a mistake, even if it's a monumental mistake. That would be a little weird. So it implies they did something knowingly. They knowingly turned down something dark, which might make sense if they tried to mess with the dwarf ancestors, or they, sold dwarf secrets, or they did who knows what. But that was my thought process.
Yeah. So, one like connection to that whole corruption thing is Pelt's, absolute obsession with having just the slightest flaw in his steel earlier on in the story. He just the tiniest little imperfection, and he goes down into terrible memory lane. So it's some kind of corruption that they were involved in, and it probably has something to do with that imperfection. They weren't perfect, basically. So yeah, good theory, Rhythm and Brews, or good discussion points for the theory. Enuryn, you want to speak?
Yes, it's the same that you just mentioned. I also think it has something to do with quality, because, as we met him, he was obsessed with quality, and I also think that this has something to do with it. Maybe if it was a group project, he was in charge of something, and it's almost like it's a trauma for him. So maybe he didn't didn't look at quality of something, and something bad happened because of that, and now he's like obsessed with quality control. Yeah, that's what I thought, at least.
All right, thank you, Enuryn. That's definitely where my thoughts go too, simply because of how broken he is when just the tiniest little bit of steel imperfection is, even though it's like completely superficial, and he just breaks down. That's very much what you'd expect someone to do when they have signs of PTSD. Just these small things can cause them to get triggered and to break down over the issue. So yeah, I think I definitely agree with what you just said, everyone. 1 second. All right, sorry. Mystical Pie says, I've never really had a concrete theory for what they could have possibly done, but the crack shot theory that just came to my head is that they got lazy and maybe tried to replace themselves or automate some process in some way that went against their craft and dwarf ideals. That could be it, yeah. Just, automated processes often have issues in them. That could be it. I could see that. Rhythm Brew says, remember that it wasn't just Pelt, it was all the best of Derthal Vel. Yeah, it was everyone. It was everyone's mistake, basically. They all were a part of it. Well, okay, all the Smiths, all the best Smiths, all the best of the best there, and their apprentices and all that. Coldfire, you wanted to speak. Coldfire? If you're trying to speak, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't realize I was muted still. I thought I clicked the button. So I think, especially, I think all the chapters were great, but there's one area in particular that I wanted to focus on was the conversation between Sylvania and Floss and Oskarash. So we know that skills in general, like if we're talking about a potential war with between Earth and in-world, we all know that skills and levels, you get them by completing something that the system deems as worthy of, challenge, or like overcoming something, right? And the harder that challenge is, the more they reward you. So we're talking about a planet, Earth, obviously. We're talking about an entire civilization starting from level 1 and counter leveling this entire other, like the entire inward. So I think people are underestimating like counter leveling, and then also the fact that Earthers have their experience multiplied by pi. I think it would just be insane to see. And I don't think it's quite as easy as some people seem to have been implying. To send a magical plague or whatever. Like, okay, yeah, sure, but we even saw that, what's his name? The elf, the undead elf who fought the unicorn. I forget his name. But yeah, he was being thwarted by people like washing their hands. He was like, "What? Why is everybody washing their hands?" And he's like, "This is gonna make my job harder." So if a undead plague mage is worried about just something as simple as washing hands, I think it's insane to say that it would just be a plague and then over. Especially Sylvania even saw that the EpiPen was able to cure her when like relics. So I think it's not going to be quite as simple as send a plague or there's going to be zombies. I think it's going to be much harder fought than that. And that's all I pretty much have to say.
Yeah, there's definitely the whole. There's always, whenever you are against a foe you've never fought before, or against a group of people that you really don't understand very well, you're always going to give the advantage to yourself. But at the end of the day, there's almost no way for any of us to really know how it will happen. And in a lot of ways, I don't think it will ever come to be, simply because I just don't see the connection to Earth being like finalized until maybe the very end of the story, and I don't think it'll ever actually happen. It could, but I just don't see it happening, really. Thank you,
Hopefully,
Coldfire.
30 more million words
Yeah,
to
that
cover all that.
it'll be a long way down the road if it does happen. But yeah, thank you, Coldfire. All right. I think 9.44. I think we're good on 9.44. We got, I don't know what else to discuss for it, so we'll just go to 9.45. This is probably the biggest question. Oh wait, I forgot to read out the rest of the comments. Sorry. Mario says, if the dwarf ancestors were golems or robots, as Master Europe said, then maybe they were trying to make replacement parts and they didn't come quite perfect enough. So basically, Mario, you're thinking they were trying to replace a part in the dwarf ancestors and it killed one of the dwarf ancestors. That's actually a really good theory. I kind of like that a lot, but we'll see in the future. Okay, so moving on to 9.45. Are you satisfied with the way Tyrion has so far been maneuvered into reconsidering his biases and his apparent character growth, or do you feel that it's too forced and unrealistic? So this basically just, do you agree with his character growth? Do you think it's good or not? And I definitely like it. Like it's been happening over. It's been happening over a long period of time. It's not just something that's come up all of a sudden, and it's just a 180 reversal on how he's been thinking this entire time. No, it's been built up since Volume 7. Basically, him meeting Ryoka was the biggest catalyst for it, and him slowly getting Ryoka's ideas interjected into his life for a long period of time, and just him respecting Ryoka in general. It's just like that whole process has taken um, a long time in words, and it's been months as well. He's been getting submersed in these ideas for months, and it's not like all of a sudden he's changed his idea on drakes. No, he still hates drakes. He doesn't like drakes as a species, and it's like that's still really bad. But he's at least confronting Dantinium. He's at least confronting goblins, and he's thinking, "Huh, that's not. I don't hate them nearly as much as I thought I did." And it's this slow reversal, this slow progress each step, and I really like it. It's how you make actual real progress with people. It's not some 180 reversal. It's this kind of slow every day. They take one step forward, and I think that's really portrayed excellently so far in Tyrion's interactions. Sidehammer says, Wiggle stole my answer. I'm sorry, Sidehammer. Donkey2012 says, the fact that he's warming up to Antinium before Drake's helps make it more believable, I think. Oh yeah, absolutely. Tyrion, out of all the Northern Lords, Tyrion is probably the one who all the Warhawk noble lords of the North. Tyrion is probably the one who'd like the Drakes the most, simply because, he liked Stantinium the most, simply because, they're going after the Drakes, his mortal enemies. So, the enemy of my enemy is my friend and all that. And him allying with Dantinium, or just understanding Dantinia first, really helps make it make sense, because it's just what you'd expect in that kind of political situation. Enuryn, you want to speak?
Yes, I totally agree with everything you just said. With the small steps, it's really great portrayed. Hating drakes as a species is sometimes okay, because I said like almost every ACD Talks drakes suck, and I'm still standing with that. Most drake really suck. But yeah. to see these small steps is just it's just amazing. Pirate definitely knows how to. It's one of the good things that TWI is so huge and large because we see these small steps. Today he took 2 steps in the last chapter, probably, or even 5, but we seen him change. He will still not trust Drakes, which is totally okay because Drake sucks. And I can't wait where this is going. Aaron Solstice inviting him to the fight of his life. And he accepting is also I don't know where to start, to be honest. Overall, I'm happy with his development.
Yeah, I'm happy too, Edron. I'll just agree with you on that. I like it. It's good. It's good moving forward.
And Drake sucks.
I won't say that. Thank you, Edron.
Say it! We all know it!
Nope. Mr. Europe, you want to speak?
Yeah, I missed most of Wiggles' answer, so you may have stolen my answer as well, but oh well. I've been dreading this part for a long time, ever since it was obvious that it was going to happen. But I have to say, I'm really happy with how it turned out. That just the kind of minor steps and just the way it was told from his perspective, that it was the small him trying really hard to actually do it, to get with his girlfriend, and just trying to find a way to do it, and settling on, well, I don't really hate the Antinium very much, and of course becoming friends with Best and Gary is just it's so nice to see someone actively trying to better themselves, even if it's purely for sex, and I stand by that. But he's just trying to better himself, and in a kind of a logical way, even though it's obviously pure emotion, everything he's trying to get past. It's just a very cool way of doing it, where he's just trying to decide, analyze his own feelings and deciding what bettering himself he can live with. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, I didn't say it in those terms where it's all about sex, but I largely agree with what you said, Mr. Europe, and that, yeah, it's great that he's actively bettering himself, and he's doing it in a believable way. It's great. Also, he's not only doing it for sex, okay? Come on, Mr. Europe, come on. Jeez.
Agree to disagree.
Jeez. Mystic Pie says, this was the first chapter where I felt we were truly seeing some actual self-reflection from Tyrion in his ideals and who he is as a person. This was also the first chapter in his long redemption where I actually thought he could maybe become tolerable. Definitely feels true to how a person like Tyrion would gradually change for the better. Looking forward to when I may kind of like Tyrion later on. Yeah. Even just changing some ideals, it takes a long time. And so we've been building up to it over the multiple volumes, and now we're finally to the point where Tyrion's like, okay, Ryoka has some kind of a point. Maybe I'll actually look at myself a little bit harder and see, okay, there's some things I can change. Coldfire JC says, people need to understand that it's really easy to hate a caricature of or a monster. It's not so easy to hate a person. He's starting to see them as people, not as a people, if that makes sense. And yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It's really easy to hate a group, and it's really easy to just see all the negative aspects of a group in general. It's it's harder once you get to know individuals in a group and you see, okay, they have redeeming qualities. They have parts of themselves that are really nice, and they're not just one amalgamation of everything I hate. Rhythm and Brews, go ahead.
All right. So a similar thing. I mean, I have hated Tyrion for a very long time, and I think, and so it's kind of interesting to see this transition, see this potential transition happening, and kind of see where it goes. I think it is a fairly believable. I think it is a fairly believable state from things that I know from people that I have met and gone through kind of similar routes. I think it is. You find something that chips away at what you think, and then you spend a long time agonizing over it and going, well, what does it all mean? And am I wrong about this? And so that is kind of interesting. I think and it's definitely interesting to see. I think that there's a couple of interesting points along the way. Is that Tyrion's possibly going here is going this direction is sort of directly contrasted with Zidijin, who does not seem to have any qualms about anything, and so we get to have a contract. We get to have two things. One, we always get to have a North Israel noble to hate, and two, we get to see sort of laid out the contrast in the thought patterns regarding those between them. And so I thought that was, I don't know if it was planned that way, but it worked out kind of nicely there, that we get to see that it's not necessarily universal. It's his own personal thing, and there's still still antagonists for plotline reasons and also for character contrast reasons. And I think that, and the last thing is, I really kind of hope that Tyrion and Ryoka don't get together at the end of this, partly because I still have issues with Tyrion even after this transformation, and partly because I think if Tyrion does get better, it will, in a way, kind of taint that journey if it was all based around that. I want him, if he gets better, I want him to get better for that own sake, and them still go off on their different directions. Because regardless, I don't think there's a way to make it feel like it's not connected that strongly, and I don't want it to be. Even if that's part of his sort of impetus for re-examining, I don't want it to be the reward for getting better or the only thing that's making it happen or anything like that.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. That makes sense in a narrative perspective too. That, at the end of the day, they won't get together, and we'll just see that Tyrion, he changed himself, and he's like, okay, I like myself better now, regardless of whether or not I got to be with Ryoka or not. And now I think that might actually be where it goes, but we'll see. We'll see. It'll be an interesting thing in the future. Coldfire, you wanted to give a comment on Zidijin.
Yeah, so I can't, 11 million words. I don't remember how much they went over Zidijin's and his family's like how they participated in the Goblin Lord War. But he commented on this chapter recently that his entire family was killed, right? So I don't really think anybody could begrudge him some, even if it might not be the most logical or most open-minded thing. Like, your entire family. Like, I only have a couple of family members. I couldn't imagine if they were all murdered by some people. And then, especially if there's, like, in World, there's a fact of the matter that eventually goblins do go crazy. It's not really the same as in our world, where racism is just ignorant and there isn't really a fact of the matter, Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say was that in World, there is a fact of the matter that goblins do eventually go crazy, and they all go crazy at the same time. So I think there's a bit of a difference. It's not just, Zidijin's, whatever, like a speciesist or whatever, but there is a fact of the matter. His entire family was murdered, and it's shitty. And obviously nobody knows why the goblins go crazy. but I don't think it's as simple as, oh, another northern noble to hate. Like, you can hate him if you want to, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. I don't like him myself, but I think to sort of hand wave it and say that he doesn't actually have like a legitimate reason to hate them is, I think, downplaying his character a little bit.
Yeah, there's always a reason. But thank you, Coldfire. Rhythm Brews, do you have something to respond to that?
I did a little bit. I think that I wasn't trying to necessarily say that he's hitting without reason. I also will sort of quote the one of my favorite works ever, Digger, which essentially boils down to someone saying or asking a question, what is evil? Is evil like doing things for no good reason? And someone going, nope, that's not true. Evil always has reasons for it, but it doesn't change that. But it doesn't change that it doesn't change what it is. And, I accept that there are reasons and backstory for why he's doing this, but it doesn't change that he's doing that. It doesn't change that base thing of it's still terrible. It's still terrible, and he's making the choice to continue being terrible.
I don't disagree, but how do you square that with the fact that goblins, like, it's a fact in the world that they do go crazy and they do go on rampages? Eventually. Not all of them at all the time, but, it's sort of like a clock ticking down. When is the other shoe going to drop?
I mean, do they go crazy and go on rampages at a much higher clip than everyone else in InWorld? Like, you're talking, it seems like one did come along, and not that recently, but every couple hundred years or something. And there's a lot of calamities that happen in InWorld every couple hundred years. I mean, there's, Elendamus is arguably worse than a Goblin King. The Azkarash was worse. There's just a lot of things that go on, and in InWorld.
That's actually a really good point. I wasn't thinking about all the other. I think I was looking at them in a vacuum, sort of. So no, that's actually a really good point. You could argue floss.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay, you convinced me.
Wonderful.
All right, that's great. Let's move on to some more comments in chat. Mario says, if simping can manifest Renu, I don't know how that applies here, Mario, but thank you. Bovu says, I'm happy with how it's going, but I'm waiting for Anne to have her moment where she confronts him about his actions. Things feel like they're building up to a head, and I look forward to seeing it. And Mr. Europe says, cool motive, still murder. Exactly. Sidehammer, you want to speak?
Yeah, I just want to say it's after you stole my stuff. I just wanted to give appreciation to Pirate, to really letting it play out and not making it a rush job. And back when I first read the first interactions between Ryoka and Tyrion, I remember going to the Reddit and kind of just geeking out and thinking, just like, oh, I love this ship. It's really funny. I really enjoy the interactions with the family and Samuel and Aiden and Ryoka and all that, and it's really great. And then they kind of blindsided me with, he murdered all the goblins, remember? Like, oh shit, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Oh wait, this is kind of inexcusable. Oh, I feel terrible for liking him now. But I mean, I think the writing was on the wall when we first saw it. I mean, we could see that, like, oh no, this terrible monster is going to be a redeemed pirate's going to try to redeem him. If they redeem Tyrion, I'm done with the story. I don't know how many times I read that, but I think I don't know how deeply Pirate is in with the community. I mean, I've never spoken with them. And I rarely see, them interact. But I know that they do have some feelers out. But I'm just wondering if they see that and think, okay, I can slow this down a bit. I'll slow this down even further and add in so many more um, uh, points of introspection or moments that can further switch or change the character. Like you said, Wiggles, it's been a long time coming now. I mean, it's been over a year that we've been reading it, but it's been months in world as well. So I just really appreciated the way Pirate didn't rush forward, even though the writing was on the wall. It's like as soon as their first few interactions.
Yeah, and that kind of build up and time taken to do it, that's really important because if we did see Rio could just meet Tyrion and all of a sudden, he's immediately redeemed, quote unquote. It obviously a lot of people would have been very angry about that, but when you draw it out and when you show the process, it helps you to understand that it's not something easy. It's not done just for no reason, but there's a lot behind it, and that makes it better. But yeah, thank you, Sidehammer. Mr. Europe, you want to speak?
Yeah, one thing that I really hope will be brought up in the story is that, I'm a goblin proponent and all that, but when Tyrion did his big, thing, killed all the goblins in Volume 5, that was honestly not as bad as what Citizen did. Because what he did was, he used 3 big goblin groups, and they were all, completely justifiable targets from his perspective, even when you don't bring up the Goblin King thing. He took out the Mountain City tribe, which was horrible. He took the Goblin Lord, which was actively rampaging through the north, and then the Rags tribe, which was burning the countryside and taking cities. That's all he really knew about them. There are big arguments to be had about the whole goblin morality, about just straight up genocide and the Goblin King and all that. But in the perspective of this, that that him attacking those 3 groups from the information he had, it's not really a problem that he tried to kill them.
Yeah, that's an actual good point there. That Tyrion's targets were all military targets. They weren't civilians. They weren't tribes that were just sitting there doing nothing. Zidijin's target was a civilian tribe that wasn't causing trouble to anyone, and there's just the only reason to target them. The only reason is preemptive slaughter. But yeah, that's a very good point, though, Mr. Europe, that Tyrion's targets were active military targets, whereas Zidijin's were civilian targets. Sidehammer says they were all active enemy combatants, and Coldfire JC says, I just wanted to clarify I wasn't condoning Zidijin's actions, just saying I don't think he's just evil. And yeah, that's a whole debate still that goes on every single day, basically, in the server, is whether or not slaughtering goblins is evil or if it's necessary. And it's, yeah. But for now, that question actually took us 20 minutes. I was surprised. So we're going to have to move on to 9.46, and we'll do a couple questions. We won't get through all 10 of these, 12 of these. I'll just read out the topics first, or the comments. Rinu says, I love Sylvania. Someone, congratulations, Linu, on becoming canon. Happy birthday. Respect for Doughty, hero of Zeth, for staring the death of magic down. And respect for Amaris with a solid right hook of lightning as well, though she may regret it. I actually I think Sylvania was playing it up in saying she was going to come after Amaris because she was playing it up a little bit for the camera. Basically, she had to come out there and show that she was angry with them, so they wouldn't get retribution. I think that was part of it, the playing it up factor. Okay, so let's move on to the big question first, and then we'll see how much more time we have. That's a gigantic question. I think I'll delete part of it. Crap. Okay, so what will be the role of the demons in the story from this moment on? We know that the demons are basically on Erin's side, but how can they help each other? Sylvania can't teleport them in because that would put both herself and Erin in danger. Direct contact can lead to the Blighted Kingdom trying to assign/abduct Erin or her friends. So what can they possibly do for each other, and which plots of these two places and Demon Kingdom can intertwine? All right, Lino, I'm going to let you speak real fast. I had to do something, so be right back. Lino, go ahead.
Okay. I thought that Twig is going to be first, but it seems that I'm going to be first. So, if someone wonders what I think about it, I genuinely don't think that Erin and the demons can go in some more direct contact right now. For example, Sylvania cannot just teleport in there and basically spend time with Erin, like any other person can. Terrier can just go to the inn and be a casual dragon eating food in there. Sylvania, or any other demon for that matter, just simply can't, because once they do so, then there will be fire raining down on the Discourse inn, and maybe entire Discord from the Blighted Kingdom to cleanse it, because they will be like, oh, she's collaborating with the demons. That means we, the Blighted Kingdom motherfuckers, have to slay her. And they would try to do so. That's why demons cannot contact her directly. Or not in the way that would be illicit. Secretly? Probably yes. Can Sylvania send some message to Erin that will be super, super secretive? Probably yes. There is not a single spellcaster in the entire world save for Terrier that would probably be able to decipher something that Sylvania sends, if she really puts effort into that. So I think that maybe in that way they could contact. I'm not sure how much or how many info they could send this way and how important that would be. There are, of course, plot points and the stuff that they can tell each other. For example, that stuff about the elves and gnomes was pretty big, that Erin already told Sylvania and the demons. So that was one big one. I'm not sure how many others are like that they can do directly. However, indirectly, Erin and demon goals in some ways are intertwined already. Who is the greatest agent of gods already in our world, in our in-world? Eldavin, who is currently being Archmage of Wisdom, who wants to destroy Wisdom, Sylvania, who wants to kidnap Erin, Roshal, who wants to destroy Roshal, Shatwa. The Drakes are currently on the Erin side, and I'm not sure if that's going to change. I hope that the Drakes are not going to change side, but if they will change side, then we have Serin Potpa, who has a grudge against the Drakes as well. So those are currently intertwined in a direct way. So by proxy, demons waging war against their own goals are helping Erin. They would be more helpful, or they could straight up help Erin much, much more if the Blighted Kingdom was already destroyed, but it is not. So it stands, and as long as it stands, the demon can help really Erin in direct way. And there's one more thing to it. Erin once said, if I remember correctly, which I might not, because I don't pay that much attention to her, that she wants either 1,000 or 1,000,000 people like Marquin, or something like that. You know, that high-level, powerful people. And the only country that currently has those people, and only few of them, is Demon Kingdom. So they already have at least 3 of those. Or if the 4th dev is as strong as the 3 others, they are the baseline, basically, that we can use. I think the demons are going to be the direct ally in that endgame plots, where Erin will need to have as many powerful allies as is possible, and not like powerful in a way, oh, look at me, I'm level 40 adventure, look how strong I am. No, shit, you are not strong. Level 40 is basically shit that can do anything to gods. Level 40 is a joke. In Rihir, if you are level 40, you are a latent, not some named adventure. If you want a legend, you go for Sylvania, not some Harlock the Grim. With respect to Harlock, because he managed to burn the Art Sync. But this is basically what I mean. If you want to have high-level people, you go to Rihir, and the problem is that the only Rihir has the high-level people right now. We need them all. So I think that by the end of the story, and by the or maybe in the middle of the end game, we will have the people from Rihir being really, really involved in the story, which I think just starts now. I think the involvement of the people from Rihir that will be in the end game is starting now. I think that Pirate is just building that foundation for the demons to take their place in story later on, in possibly volume 10 or volume 11. I'm not sure if we will have that many volumes or 12. But yeah, I think basically this is laying a foundation for the future involvement of the demons.
All right, I would largely agree with you. This is setting up some points where Sylvania is basically laying the groundwork that she's not just completely destroyer of everyone, even though that's how the Blighted Kingdom portrays her. So yeah, it's set up right now for later down the road. I don't think we'll see any significant involvement between Sylvania or the Demon Kingdom and the Inn super soon. It'll take some time. It'll definitely take probably a long time. I think this will be the closest they come in this volume, and maybe next volume, like you said, or the volume after that, we'll get some more intertwining. Rhythm and Brews, you're up next.
Hello. Well, one, just happy birthday, again. The other one is I feel like as far as how could they be in communication, there's a lot of ways to be in communication. You can send messengers, you can use intermediaries. Like, not everyone, was it the Dullahans and Drath don't send stuff to Rear? So there's people who don't actually participate even now in the Great War. Saren Potva has potentially a backdoor into the gardens. So there's a bunch of ways that contact could be made. Someone was talking about Erin's Theater, I think, in the comments below this one. So I think that there's a lot of ways to do that. I think that obviously the open communication kind of hinges on 2 things, but we have at least 2 mechanisms right now for to sort of poke a hole in the world narrative of the Blighted Kingdom and the Demon Kingdom. Donkey Kong and Burger King, if you will. There's the big lie, 2 big lies. There's the one about the Great Summoning Ritual, and then there's that village that the Blighted Kingdom bombed off the face of Inworld some years back. And both of those are sort of secrets that are emerging out into the world. And so if either of those get more, then that immediately sort of results in the Demon King, the demons getting more normalized relations with the end of the world, because now there's not this thing. I'm really worried about actually when that happens, though, because as soon as a larger portion of the world starts deciding we're laying the groundwork for a gigantic in-world civil war, a worldwide in-war based on picking sides between the two. And I don't know if that's something that's going to be because as soon as there's credible evidence that the demons are not the world-ending threat, or not, it's not a completely one-sided thing, now we're going to have all the people in in-world taking sides and potentially getting into a gigantic war over this, which probably with the gods on the Blighted King's side. Anyway, this is getting, and so I'm really afraid. I want to stress that of just the whole world disintegrating into war, and I don't know if that's going to happen or there's going to be a way to avoid that. But I think that'll be a significant point when the whole rear situation starts midway down the uncovering the truth of it. That was my thought there.
Yeah, and I don't think so. Just off the bat, the gods are not gonna go down easily. So I do think they will try to ally with certain kingdoms, and I definitely agree with your thought that the Blighted Kingdom is going to be one of them. The Demon Kingdom, they already they have some experience with the Blight over here, and they know the Antinium are down there and all that. So I think they're like kind of off limits for the gods. But the Blighted Kingdom has a lot of power. It has a lot of political maneuvering ability with the rest of the world, and it has a king who is absolutely desperate to get every single advantage, regardless of the costs. Any costs, it doesn't matter. So regardless of the costs, their king is willing to get any advantage over the Demon Kingdom. And I think that makes them ripe for the picking for the dead gods. And in the end, if they ally with them, it will become a world kind of war situation. So I definitely see that as a very likely possibility going down the line. But thank you, Rhythm Bruce. Donkey 2012 says, I think Enuryn will need to be the one to initiate contact between the Inn and the demons. Her theater skill is extremely hard to detect, trace, or block, and the demons are under much more surveillance than the Inn is for now. Yeah, Enuryn contacting them would be good, but at the same time, it's the same issue with going directly against Rochelle. As soon as she does that, she's painting a gigantic target on her back that the BK is like, okay, you need to get erased. You're gone. You're done for. So I think she needs to wait some time before she can do that. Mystical Pie says, I think we see the demons subtly making inroads with more groups of people so they aren't as hostile. The future version of the BK's Chronomancer told Enuryn that she ends up being a direct enemy of him in the future. So I think they definitely become eventual allies. Enuryn can contact Sylvania through her World's Eye Theater. Definitely see Saren Potva being involved in Aaron's exploration of the garden, and there will eventually be some contact between Antinium on Israel and Rehir, which probably involves the demons in the Inn. I think the Inn will definitely become intertwined with the Demon Kingdom in the future. Maybe the demons' broader acceptance in the world is what leads to the BK going crazy / journey to gods. Well, in that alternate future, the BK did overrun and defeat the Demon Kingdom. Like, they had won that war. So even if Enuryn was on their side, the Demon Kingdom was done. Like, they were gone, which I know Linu hates, but it's obviously a future that's not going to come true anymore. Linu wanted to thank you, Rhythm Brews, for saying happy birthday. And Wevu, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, so for where the demons are going to be in the story for this moment on, I think that a lot of the Demon Kingdom and Rehir stuff is probably going to be thrown to the back burner. Just because I think the next volume is going to focus very heavily on the new lands. And the demons have, if I remember correctly, they're sending people to the new lands. So as for how they would help each other, I imagine that Enuryn might get in contact with some demons via their expedition to the New Lands rather than via like any direct conversation. So that's where I think it's going. I think that for a while, Rahere is going to be on the back burner. We know what's going to happen in the future, but we also know that Aaron was probably at least visibly older by the time that the Blighted King finally got his heroes in action and was able to actually kill the Demon Kingdom. So Aaron does have at least a little bit of time, and I think that we're going to get a few arcs not involving Rahere before we actually move on to the big stuff with, Orpheus and all his lies coming to the light and causing a world war.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's going to be put on the back burner for a bit. But at the same time, Pirate App is, kind of known for just bringing some parts of the story, some parts of the plot forward at exponential paces that we just aren't expecting. So I do agree that it's most likely going to be put on the back burner for a while, but we could be surprised. We could see it happen right now, soon. Who knows? It's always fun. Almighty Nub says, I got the impression the past incident was a lot worse than just bombing a village, considering how viscerally the princess reacted to it in the possible future. Yeah. That incident, it seems it seems very dark. Well, I hope we learn about it sometime soon. But yeah. Luna says, great point about the Civil War by Discanter. I agree 100%. It might lead to a civil war across the entire world. Well, it's not really. Well, it's kind of not really a civil war at that point. That's just a world war, But I agree with it. Candia says there might be a bit of contact through the New Lands expeditions, and maybe there could be a way for them to send one or more of the Earthers as agents to Inn. I don't know if there would be ways to easily unmask them. I think that would be extremely dangerous simply because we know the BK is basically like almighty in the rest of the world. For the deaths, they can get out of Rahere, and that's basically it. The deaths can do it if they really put their mind to it, and they could, they sent an expedition to the New Lands, but that's because the New Lands is completely devoid of civilized presence. So they're able to kind of avoid the Blighted Kingdom there. But anywhere else, I think the Blighted Kingdom has a lot of inroads in diplomacy that allow them to pretty much squash any attempt at diplomacy, and that would include Earthers. I think sending an Earther out there would be extremely dangerous and not worth the risk right now. Maybe in the future, but right now it's not worth the risk, in my opinion. Linu says, I do hate that, and that was in response to me saying the Blighted Kingdom overran the DK and the alternate future. Mystical Pie says, oh shit, I guess I remember that. Yeah, it's okay. We all misremember things. I do it all the time too. Netroma says, BK should already be badly deposed, I don't know. Deposed towards Aaron. She's associated with Centennium. Then there's the earlier mentions of BK would try to gather Earthers and bring them to here. I think Aaron, without interacting with demons, will have an altercation with the BK forces arriving in Israel. She's already got a target on her back, in other words. Contacting deaths would only give them an excuse to do it in public. Yeah, I do. I think that's true that the BK is probably disinclined towards her. But at the same time, Aaron got the Blighted King a free level, or not a free level. She got him a level at one point. So at the same time, maybe they are positively inclined towards liking Aaron right now. Who knows? I don't think Aaron is super on their radar as of this point. Miss Europe says, we know pirates do business with demons, as presumably they can get a box with a dude out of the continent very easily. Well, they can get people out of the continent. It's just that once they're out, they're susceptible. Like every time they try and get a good publicity for the Demon Kingdom, the Blighted Kingdom, ruthlessly gets rid of it. You know, they have people on the outside, but they have to be super secret. And going straight to Aaron with an Earther to talk to her, that's not super secret. Almighty Nub says, is it possible that Aaron could see the demon situation as something like the goblin situation? Imagine if goblins were by default Hobbs and that was always the Goblin King under Goblin Island. Wouldn't the world's view of them basically how the world sees demons now? Yeah. If the goblins were literally always trying to kill people, there would be a lot more opposed. And yeah. Rhythm Brews, you want to speak?
Yeah, I was noticing when this was actually when you were talking about like everyone's kind of afraid to cross Osteus because of the Blighted Kings, because their diplomacy and retribution and things. And short comment is this struck me as very similar to how everyone's afraid to go against Roshal. So I kind of see those are, I don't know if there's any other powers that are like that in the world, but those are sort of the two powers of in-world that everyone's afraid of making mad, and so they kind of let do whatever they want for various reasons. Although the rest of the world has a higher opinion of Blighted Kingdom because not everything they do is known. But anyway, that was a connection that I had in my head when you said that about no one being able to go against the BK. That's pretty much all.
All right, thank you, the Scanter. I think that's it for this question. We got quite a few responses. Geez, another like 20-minute question. All these are 20-minute questions. Here, let's do another big question, and then we might have to end it. Let's see. How well do you see this in-world Illuminati faring against Earth? And powers in in-world have had the benefit of prior warning about Earth and its capabilities. But how do you think in-world would have fared if both met each other blindly? Well, and at the same time, it is kind of blindly. Like they know, they, you know, quote unquote know the capabilities of Earth, but hearing about them is a lot different from actually experiencing them. So yeah, it kind of is blindly. But this question is basically Earth versus in-world. What are your thoughts? And yes, we're doing this because it's actually canon discussion in the chapter. I want to hear what you guys think, starting with Linu.
Okay, so we of course all agree, or not agree, but the inward would casually roll stomp us. No issues in there. They would just come in and stomp entire world like it doesn't happen. Look, we can go the approach of the undead. If I remember correctly, there's over 100 billion dead people somewhere out there buried. Some of them don't have bones anymore. Some of them, of course, don't have flesh. But we know so many people died on our planet. So I think Kelt was kind of right there. I mean, Fetohep, that if those undead will suddenly start to generate the death mana, then the entire world is kind of fucked. That's the one thing. The second thing, the Sylvania's propositions, just drown everyone. Open the portals, drown everyone. Easy peasy, we don't have drowned folk. If there's all of a sudden like 10 meters or 20 meters or 30 meters of water over everyone, I doubt that we would survive. I doubt that anything would survive if we all of a sudden had the floods that we have not seen anywhere else in history. That's another approach. I'm not sure how the plagues would work out. If someone crafted, someone, in this case, Sylvania. If Sylvania crafted some super magical plague that would fuck us up, I think it would work. But first, she would need to talk to any of the Earthers No, she doesn't even need to talk to them anymore. She can just see it. She just saw it on her own in that tent. How we are generally dealing with stuff on daily basis. So I think if she saw a hospital or something and she knew how we are treating the illnesses and the every plague that we have or anything, then she can instantly came to a conclusion how to stop them. How to stop us from trying to prevent the spread of it. Maybe create some way of spreading the sickness that we don't know how to counter. Maybe she would create a plague that we can spot at all with our technology, and within day we would be all dead. I don't know. That's the another approach. The fact that we have atomic bomb and stuff, we are not guaranteed to know that they will work. We know that the genie can counter radiation. They can also turn into fire. And I assume that they would probably be able to survive it. The most powerful of the genie, at least. So, few genie, go in, sweep in, and destroy everything as it goes. Like, no one is going to level from like level 1 to level 60 in few hours, and I think the entire world of ours could be destroyed in like few hours if Inward like put thought into it. There are many other ways that we could think about it, or at least I could think about it right now. How many pretty war crimes we could unleash upon the entire our world, but also there is a way of deception that I don't think that anyone other than we talk about. Look, how to get us to support the Inward, how to get us to fight against our own cat boys and cat girls. Literally. Imagine all the weeps that will now be faced with possibility of having their own cat girl or becoming a cat boy. This is the ultimate deception and psychological weapon. There is no way to fight against that. That's why Inward stomps no matter what we do.
All right, thank you, Linu. I disagree in just the general presence that general pretense, I guess, that Inworld would just win. I do think it's a lot. There's a lot more going on that could influence things, and Sylvania says, just drain an ocean on whatever country, but countries are huge, and just draining an ocean on it isn't going to solve every problem. But yeah, I'm not going to put too many of my thoughts here because we have a ton of answers here. Miss Europe, you want to speak?
Yeah, I always figure that there's a lot of debate about this. You can go back and forth like a lot of ways, but in the end, if Earth actually manages to do well against Inworld, I feel like someone would just end up throwing a Kreller egg in the Atlantic Ocean, and there aren't enough magical beasts in Earth to actually fight off Krellers. So that would just end with the world dying eventually, and then like another ancient Kreller coming up in like a few hundred years or whatever, and then ending up eating Inworld as well. So that would just be how it ends either way. But yeah, just someone would eventually just get spiteful and unleash Krellers on a world that can't handle it. But yeah, and regarding Linu's last comment about the deception with weebs or whatever, I feel like you're just saying that the Area 51 raid again, but somehow less successful.
I thank you, Mr. Europe. I will say that you're right in that any kind of magical monster, like there are a lot of different magical monsters than just Krellers, but the introduction of magical monsters to our ecosystem would be extremely devastating. And it's hard to tell how well we'd be able to deal with it, because at the same time we'd get, it's been pretty much confirmed that we would get the system, we would get magic as well in this chapter, simply because we're like emerging. Now, we're just going to assume that the two worlds have merged completely, and so we get the system, we get magic at the same time. So it's kind of hard to tell like a whole 8 billion humans suddenly getting a system, getting a bunch of levels, how they will deal with those magical monsters. But without magic, without the system, magical monsters are going to be a huge problem for a lot of Earth. Not maybe for military forces in general, but there's a lot of Earth to cover and not a lot of military to cover the Earth. And there's also all the oceans too, which we have basically no way of dealing with magical monsters in oceans. Our ocean under ocean warfare situation in that regard is just terrible. Anyways, Wovlu says, I think that if in-world and Earth meld, Earth gets access to levels. A catastrophe of zombies, plagues, crazy archmages, etc. would lead to rapid leveling with new classes that in-world cannot predict. Earth would probably flag at the beginning, but ultimately win, especially if Earthlings see that Earthers are in in-world. What could unify our world's power more than, hey, those are the pricks that have been kidnapping our kids? I would also need to know what kind of meld it is. Are places from Earth haphazardly added to Inworld, or is it a portal that people can use as staging grounds between worlds? This stuff matters. And yeah, I think you're right that at the very beginning, Earth would be on the back foot. But as Earth got more classes, got used to leveling and magic in general, I think Earth would start having a big advantage. But yeah, okay. Rhythm and Bruce, you want to speak?
All right. So I'm gonna go with a lot of blood and a stalemate, because one of the things a lot of people are talking about is people are talking a lot about in-world has thought a little, at least the people who are talking in the book and people here have talked a lot about, this is what Earth has. How do we attack it? And so the learning curve is, in these hypotheticals, is favoring in-world invasion quite a bit, because we're saying, this is what's going on here and this is how to counter it. But there is 8-ish billion people here. There's a lot of ground and there's a lot of people that learn things. And so, much like they're saying, this is how our magic can do this, we're going to say, well, this technology works. This technology doesn't. Start learning magic. Then there's going to be counters, and so a fight is not going to look the same as it will in those first couple of days, like after even a few months, because people are going to start to figure things out. And Earth and In-World are both really big places, so you're not going to follow that up with not all of In-World and not all of Earth are going to be on the same side. They're not all going to be committed. It's not going to be an all-out total war. You're going to have people who go, why are we fighting? You're going to have people learning you're going to have people learning magic. You're going to have people learning how to deal with magic and what the limitations are. Then you're going to have in-world learning people learning more technology, and it's going to be a giant mess. And both places are just too big to just overrun and kill off. So we'll survive, adapt, and change, and no one will just stomp and destroy. Is my prediction.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, one of the big things is where exactly the portal will emerge. Or where the worlds will merge together. If it's the little portal situation where the portals are like everywhere, it's really hard to kill 8 billion people at once if you have a bunch of little portals around the world. It's hard to conquer an entire world that way too. If it's one big portal, again, really difficult to deal with the entire world. So yeah, I think you're right that it can't be dealt with right away. One side won't just win in a matter of a couple years or even hundreds of years. And also, like, if there's one big portal and it emerges in like Antarctica, it's like that's already an end right there. There's not going to be a bunch of going back and forth. if there's a one big portal in the middle of Australia, Australia might be overrun, but the rest of the world is going to be looking better than if, there's one big portal in the center of America and America is just wiped off the center. It's just wiped off the map right away. It matters where this thing happens. So it's a lot of variables that it's really difficult to really say overall. But anyways, Enuryn, you want to speak?
Ooh, finally. First of all, I think it would depends on both sides. The faction that get the foothold first would have had a huge advantage. If, for example, Earth were to invade Inworld and would have been able to make a stable base before Inworld could even react, Earth could make humans are disgustingly good at killing things, and I think that if that were to happen, plus the introduction of skills and magic, that Inworld could really have a huge problem. And the other thing is unification. Inworld is much more divided than Earth. I would think when it would come to interdimensional struggle, because we are only one race, we would band together. But even if there would be a war in Inworld, you see how extremely hard these species bicker at each other, and I don't know if the demons and the Blighted Kingdom could work together to fight off another invasion Earth, because they would be scared to turn their back to one another. And I think that the people underestimate how quickly Earth would pick up magic. It would be disgustingly fast, because our analytic power is Inworld can't even compare. I don't even want to think what magic spells could a supercomputer come up with when we feed them all the fucking data. And to the problem there is that the mass destruction spells that would flood our continents or our cities, the magical animals and plagues, I could see that these are gonna be a huge problem. But once again, we have seen it with COVID. If humanity wants, they can work together. And I don't see that at Inworld. Not at all. There are way too hard of a grudge things there for them to work together.
Well, I will say, Enuryn, I'm a bit more pessimistic than you are in thinking that Earth can work together better. Okay, not better. Work together well. I do agree with you that overall Earth countries could work together better than in-world nations can currently. But I still don't think they'll be able to do it well. I think you'll see factions forming. You'll see possibly some countries going and allying with some in-world nations rather than all of Earth sticking together. I think that's kind of likely, in that some of them will see it as just better to go with to ally themselves with in-world rather than sticking all in-world, all Earth.
These fuckers are taking our kids for who knows how long. there is a missing generation of kids in from every country on the world, I think it wouldn't be really hard to unify the planet.
Well, okay, I think you could unify certain aspect or certain countries. I think the EU and North America, I think they could ally very easily. But I don't think you're going to get allies from Asia. I don't think you're going to, well, I don't think all of Asia is going to band together and ally with us. I don't think Russia will in general. I don't think Africa will or South America will.
And there's another thing. Earth's military power is way more spread than the one in world. In world really is dependent, for example, on wisdom. If Earth would to know where to strike and had the time and could take out, like, for example, wisdom or Terendria's main capital, they would be fucked. Even, God forbid, if New York City would now be wiped off from the face of the earth, the rest of the world's military power is way more spread. Way more. And every country, every military could be a huge problem for in-world. An in-world is just a few places, at least that we know of. Or am I wrong?
I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I don't know. It's like you're right and you're wrong because Earth does have military nations that are much stronger. Like America has America has basically the majority of the military power on Earth right now. Like that, I don't think that's really up for discussion, but other nations do have very good militaries as well, and those militaries are definitely, hundreds of years more advanced than in-worlders are. But I don't think in-worlders have places you can just nuke and get rid of, and it's just like
I think
in-world is screwed. Because, Wistrom, if you get rid of Wistrom, yeah, there will be a magical deficit, but they'll adapt in many ways. There are other magical schools out there.
but none of them are like a percentage of that was what wisdom is. And so many the mages, all of them bury their secrets so deep that if these places, imagine if wisdom and Terendria's kingdom would be blown up. Earth, in-world still has kings and queens and all of that, and without them, without the high-level people, the world is nothing. If they were to die first, the whole world would collapse. I think. And Earth is not dependent on just one person or like 100. All of in-world could be destroyed from. If the 100 strongest people in in-world would band together, they could ruin the whole world. That could never happen on Earth. Never.
Yeah, that is true. That in-world definitely has an issue with relying on higher level individuals, and if you take out those individuals, you're taking out a lot of the power. But there's always counter leveling. You have to factor that in. Counter leveling, it makes people higher level very fast. On both sides. So it's so difficult to say. Just
yeah, it's true.
It's so difficult to say that just one will destroy the other. But anyways, thank you, Aderon. We do have to move on a little bit though.
Yep.
We'll end the discussion soon, but I'm going to read out all this stuff. Almighty Nub says they just have to sit back with some popcorn and watch. If the grand design spread to Earth, then society would just destroy itself as everyone gets magic and skills. I don't know about that. I don't want to say they'll just destroy it. It'll destroy us, but it'll change us. It definitely will. Mystical Pie says the fact that people like Sylvania. I'm sorry, Edwin. Can you mute yourself real fast? There's like
sorry.
wind or something. I don't know. Breathing maybe. Mystical Pie says the fact that people like Sylvania can just clone and steal all the technology that sets Earth apart kind of makes me feel like if they wanted to, Enworld could massacre us within a week. I feel like the learning curve for magic levels for Earth would be much higher than anything new introduced for Enworld. The billions of undead and disarray in Enworld's version of Earth seems to be indefinitely wouldn't help. If we survive the first week, it's a toss-up. Sylvania is obviously the top of the top of the top of the world. Sure, she can duplicate things, but she's one person. Sure, Terrier can duplicate things, but he's one person. Sure, Eldivan could duplicate things, but he's one person. There's 3 people that we know of that could accurately duplicate Earth technology, and that's without understanding it. They need to understand it more to be able to reproduce it rather than just duplicate it. So yeah. Coldfire JC says, point of order, the waters on Inworld are endless. They go off the edge of the world. A portal could literally drown the planet. Yeah, but it's like, how fast would that portal, how big is that portal? So how many gallons of water are actually going to be coming through at once? It's, how would that portal be maintained? Could you destroy whatever's maintaining the portal before it becomes a really serious issue? It's a attack that I think you could counter relatively easily. Coldfire JC says colors take time to reach maturity. By the time an elder color came around, I'm pretty sure a Hellfire missile or 12 could take them out. And yeah, it does take like hundreds of years for crawlers to get to ancient or elder levels. Kania says there's one thing that could change things a lot depending on how it works, and that we don't know. We don't know if Inworld and Earth could meld completely or only connect. We don't know how the system would work on Earth. There's a good chance they can't probably cross, and that skills couldn't be used on Earth or be nerfed. This chapter basically said that like we're on the assumption that skills are going to come to Earth and magic's going to come to Earth because this chapter's like basically saying that dimensions melding is going to cause that. But reading the rest of what Kanye says, also there is this thing, there's no ambient magic or it works differently. Probably even if magic can start crossing, there's a good chance it would flood Earth immediately. That would probably affect the use of big attack spells. I don't agree necessarily with that either. Well, simply because that's just not how it's treated in this chapter. But yeah. Wait, I thought, did I miss Brack? I thought you wanted to speak, but I guess you deleted your ping. I think that's it. Wait, no, there's some more. Almighty Nub says something to keep in mind is the comment from the chapter saying 2024 is when things got really weird. Time dilation is going whoosh. Earth and TWI will likely have a very different political and technological landscape by the time a merge happens, if it happens. And that's an excellent point, Almighty Nubs. We're seeing Earth actually get farther ahead in the timeline than where the story is. So Earth can change a lot in that time that we just don't know. And that gives Pirate Abbott a lot of freedom to do certain weird things that we wouldn't expect. And Pat says, the thing about the grand design is that it is designed to make conflicts like that as balanced as possible. Yeah, that's true, Pat. The grand design throws a whole loop through this entire thing. If